I got to a point where I was exhausted, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I think a lot of us can resonate with this. There's a point in your life where the pain of continuing as things are becomes greater than the pain of change. I hit that point. I knew that there was no hope in the career I was in. I felt like I was destined to do something more than just be stuck in an office for most of my life. But what I realized is that when you get that physical tension inside of you, it is a sign that you are low on spiritual energy. Now, what that means is that you're going against who you naturally are. You're doing work that is not aligned to your potential. But when you are high on spiritual energy, you're in flow. Hours feels like minutes. And that was the point where I knew I had to take my career in a very different direction. And it wasn't an easy journey.
Ambition is not a dirty word. Impact is not synonymous with struggle. In fact, massive impact is absolutely possible with joy, fun, and sublime integrity. I'm Bianca Best, author and founder of The Burnout Business. And this is the Big Impact Show, where success meets grace. So today on the Big Impact Show, I am absolutely delighted and honoured and privileged to be joined by my friend Simon Alexander Ong, who is a guru of all things to do with energy and a best-selling author. And now he's even consulting Forbes on how to build a successful YouTube channel. Simon, I am so delighted to have you here with me.
Bianca, it is an absolute pleasure.
We've been on quite a journey over the past couple of years, haven't we? Learning how to write and market books. And you are a man of very significant impact who has taught me oodles. And you sit here as someone that has leaned into authorship, impact, YouTubing with absolute gusto. And I would love to hear more of your story and how you've got here today.
So I actually haven't done what I do today my whole life. I grew up with this mistaken belief that, you know, like most people, success would be defined by my job title. And so when I was a teenager, I remember going to see the careers advisor, and from him, from my parents, from my peer group, I had this understanding that if I graduated from college and I became a banker, a lawyer, a doctor, or an accountant, I would be considered successful. So I fell into the financial services sector, probably the worst possible time. Middle of 2007, a year before the global financial crisis swept across the planet. And the company I started with was Lehman Brothers, which fell into bankruptcy around 14 months after I joined. And so that kickstarted nearly 10 years of being in and out of jobs. But the experience of the crisis got me thinking. It got me questioning what success meant for me. Not society's definition or my peer group's definition, but for me alone. And that's when I started exploring the world beyond the financial services sector. And it got me into the world of coaching. I really enjoyed helping people. And so I said, if I could build a business where I could help people one-to-one, I'm a happy man. And so I started that, and it grew. It started to do well. And then speaking became my next thing.
Amazing.
And then the speaking took off, and then that led me to being interviewed on the likes of the BBC and Sky News.
Fantastic.
And then just as the world was entering its first lockdown at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, I signed a book deal with Penguin to write my first book, Energize.
Which we have here, and I am so proud to actually be holding this signed copy.
And it came out in 2022, and since then life has been an absolute roller coaster. It has been a huge platform to get my work out into the world more internationally, start a YouTube channel, as you mentioned just now, speak more about how companies and individuals can embrace the ideas I share in there, and just experiment with a lot more ideas that I now have the capability to do so.
Wow. I mean, that is an incredible tale of success redefined, success on your terms. It's success in a very unique way, which is why I'm so privileged that we're sitting here having this conversation. And if we think back to that initial decision that you made to step out of that corporate arena, the financial sector, can you talk a little bit about the disillusionment, the sort of the energy that you were feeling at that particular time that made you find that courage that would trigger you to actually make the leap into what is a very brave and unknown space of entrepreneurship?
I I got to a point where I was exhausted,
Okay.
physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I think a lot of us can resonate with this. There's a point in your life where the pain of continuing as things are becomes greater than the pain of change. And I hit that point. I knew that there was no hope in the career I was in. There was no future. I didn't see myself being in the same position, those much more senior than I was. I didn't want to end up there. I didn't want to be where they were. And every time I came into the office, sat in front of my screen, I felt like I was destined to do something more than just be stuck in an office for most of my life.
And where did that feeling manifest?
It was in my stomach. It's sort of that physical tension you get on a Sunday night or Monday morning before you start a new work week. And I didn't know it at the time, and hindsight's wonderful. But what I realized is that when you get that physical tension inside of you, it is a sign that you are low on spiritual energy. Now, what that means is that you're going against who you naturally are. You're doing work that is not aligned to your potential. But when you are high on spiritual energy, you're in flow. Hours feels like minutes. And that was the point where I knew I had to take my career in a very different direction. And it wasn't an easy journey. And on the outside, it can look easy. But actually, it was a really tough journey because I had never been around people that had built a successful business on their own.
Oh, wow.
My family had all worked for someone.
Yeah.
And my peer group, of course, coming from finance, were all working for someone. And so I never really had the influence or the mentorship of someone who had built a successful business. And so
Who were your heroes and well?
so my first mentors were books. I would change what I was reading. I knew at that point I had to start literally upgrading my environment. That was what I read, who I spent time with, communities I was a part of, events I attended, what I did on my weekends, what I did after work. I literally optimized my environment for the person I wanted to become.
I love that.
And that massively helped the mental journey
Yeah.
from seeing myself as an employee to seeing myself as the CEO of my future. And
Beautiful.
that shift in identity was absolutely crucial as a foundation and a springboard to where I am today.
I love that. That's very powerful. Was there any loneliness in that journey?
Absolutely.
Tell me.
Absolutely. I think when you decide to embark on a different path, especially one that is different to a lot of your friends, you will go through a period of loneliness because it's not easy to share the struggles and the challenges you're going through. You might go to your friends when you catch up and say, hey, I'm starting this new idea. Not sure it's going to work, but I'm going to give it a go. It might take me a few years, but I'm willing to give this a try. And they can't really help you or understand what you're going through apart from saying, well, best of luck and let me know how it goes.
Oh, and you're mad, perhaps.
And you're
Yeah.
mad and like, why are you giving up this
Yeah.
lucrative career? And so it was lonely at the beginning. And so I sought the counsel of authors, videos from people who were ahead of me, who were sharing their wisdom and insights. I tried to join mastermind groups. I sought out mentors. I went to events just to surround myself with a different kind of energy, an energy that anything is possible. And I needed that because I wanted to move from a push to a pull force. So just to explain that, a push force is what we call motivation. So when I was in banking, motivation could be if you hit your targets, you will get this bonus. And that's an external motivation, but it pushes you to get things done. After you get paid the bonus, guess what? You revert back to who you were until you have another bit of motivation that pushes you forwards. Motivation doesn't last. What does is inspiration. And inspiration is where we have this pull energy. It pulls you forward. It gets you up in the morning. You can't explain why, but it's just this energy that pulls you forward. And that's what I needed to be around.
It's so powerful. It's so powerful. And you tuned in to that natural acknowledgement that you needed to align your own energy. You needed to be inspired by the energy of others. How did you then expand that depth of knowledge to make you the energy guru that you are today? And and just to elaborate on,
Yeah.
on the question, expanding your knowledge in the energy space, but the way that you talk about energy as physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, I love that.
Yeah.
How are you sharing your wisdom in those different realms into a more sort of traditional space where in business we don't really talk about spiritual energy, but
Yeah.
you're sort of connecting this all into how you thrive.
Absolutely.
Just tell me about this journey of energy.
So there's two parts to the answer. The first is there's a statement I often share that goes, visualize in years, plan in months, execute in days. And the purpose of that statement is to say that one of the greatest skills you can learn is to collapse that gap between idea and execution. Too many of us have a huge gap between idea and execution. But the smaller that gap, the more you can focus on experimenting, trying things. And that's how you get clarity. You don't get clarity from overthinking. You get clarity from taking action. And that's what I did. Yes, I had big thoughts, but I also started small. Started small, just one step each day. What can I do? What can I try? How can I improve on who I was yesterday? And that meant embracing this eternal student mindset. I could learn not just about myself, but about these concepts that I'd come across. I could try them. I could codify what was working for other people. When it comes to energy, for me, the challenge, and it's not just energy, it's anything. When we want to get an idea out to a certain demographic, we've got to understand how to simplify a message. You're not going to connect with people if you overcomplicate your message and you fill it with jargon. It's like, you have a jar with lots of sweets in it, and there's one sweet that's extra special. But when it's in a jar with so many other sweets, you're never going to see it. So if you want that sweet to shine and to be noticed, you've got to focus on that. You have to simplify the message. And so when I talk about energy, I wanted to communicate it in a way that everybody got. Physical is built through 3 pillars: sleep, nutrition, and movement. Mental energy is about your mindset. It's about your creativity. Emotional energy is the relationship you have with yourself and those around you. And spiritual energy is all about purpose. And people can connect with that. I say, when there was something you really wanted that ignited something inside of you, did you find it difficult to do the work required? And a lot of people say no. But when it felt like a chore and you just didn't feel like it, you might procrastinate and overthink. Is that right? Now, this is all to do with spiritual energy. Because if you can unlock what your purpose is and understand how to channel that into action, you will awaken one of the greatest sources of energy that there is going. That's how you create that pull force that just pulls you towards a vision that is yours personally.
That's beautiful and very powerful. And it's so important to talk about purpose that way.
Yeah.
And I find that quite often purpose becomes almost ethereal, this lofty, I need to save the children, eradicate world hunger. And I had this conversation with my eldest son the other day where he was like, Mum, I don't know what my purpose is. And I was just, darling, at ease, because it's to what you just described. It's understanding how you can personally feel aligned and like you're having impact, you're honoring your values, and then it's motivating and you can apply that in any particular environment when you are ignited with that positive energy.
And the interesting thing about purpose is you don't find it by focusing on your purpose. Here's what I mean. In life, you need to discover what your purpose is in order to feel fulfilled. But if you sit there and go, well, I don't know what to do because I don't know what my purpose is, it can be very heavy. Like, well, what questions do I ask? What do I try in order to find my purpose? Instead, focus on a different question. A very soft, simple question, which is, what am I most curious about right now?
Love that.
What am I most curious about? Because what happens is you then start noticing things. I'm really curious about speaking. I'm really curious about interviewing people. I'm really curious about this. Just go try it, because we never know ahead of time if that's the thing or not. But what you're doing is you're following your curiosity, which will eventually lead you to what your purpose is.
Absolutely, that's incredibly powerful. It's also about that experimentation, isn't it? And we were just talking about this earlier. I think once you get to that place of being grounded in energetic alignment, you are then more confidently able to go out and experiment. And you have clearly epitomized, exemplified how you can go out and just trial different ways of connecting with people. I'd like to talk about some of the work that you did promoting your book. You certainly inspired me when we first met about some of the art and the culinary experiences and how you went so far away from just putting an ad in the paper. You know, you did marketing in an incredibly magical, special way. Can you share a little bit about what you did?
Yeah, so what I started to understand when it comes to marketing, and first of all, I think when you're in business, one of the skills you want to focus on working to develop is thinking like a marketer. How can I think more like a marketer? And what I noticed is that the best marketing was built around experiences, because it's harder to say, hey, you should try coaching, because the idea is quite abstract. Whereas if you give people an experience, they can sell it better themselves. And they're more immersed in what that is. It's like, the analogy that comes to my mind, it's like magic. You know, if I describe to you a close-up magic trick, you might go, oh, that sounds cool. But when somebody walks up to you and does the magic in front of you, it will blow your mind.
That's a great analogy.
And so for me, it was thinking, how could I create experiences that would turn my audience into my marketers?
Perfect.
So instead of,
smart.
which a lot of businesses think about, instead of thinking, oh, who are some marketers I can hire into my team, why don't I turn my entire following and my audience into my marketers? And they go and spread word about my book to their networks and their friends. And so one of the things we did is we partnered with a bar in London at the Connaught Hotel, and they created an Energized cocktail. So if you went to this bar within the first month of publication and you ordered this particular cocktail, it would be mixed in front of you and then presented on the signed copy of my book. And then we put together one of the world's first book launches in the metaverse. So people's avatars, my avatar, was having this event with people holding their VR goggles.
Amazing.
That's how you interacted with people in this setup.
Amazing.
And then recently we partnered with a chef who's known on television to put together an Energized dinner experience. It was 2 nights, 18 seats, 6 courses, each course inspired by a theme or message from the book.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So impressive, Simon. Really so impressive. You've really pushed the boundaries of how to promote and market a book. I also remember you commissioned some bespoke art that represented the themes of the Energized strategies. And most recently, you have dabbled in building a YouTube channel in honor of serving your followers. And you have achieved stratospheric success. Can you tell me a little bit about this journey?
Yeah, it's been crazy. I mean, February 2024, we sat down and we said, what is going to be one of our challenges for the year ahead? And I always like trying new things each year. And we said, well, I've got a YouTube channel. I've had it for a number of years. Not really done anything with it. We've had the odd video we put up here and there just for the purpose of advertising to speaker agencies. And we said, why don't we focus on putting up more content on a regular basis? And I started researching strategies. I started understanding the platform. And we said, okay, let's aim for one every 2 weeks. And literally 10 months later, we surpassed 100,000 subscribers. And as we speak now, we are close to 135,000 subscribers. And it's been an incredible learning journey.
Wow. Wow. I mean, congratulations.
Thank you.
That is an epic growth. What would you attribute that success to?
I would say, and this is probably the same for anything you're trying to market or sell, in an age where attention matters, it is the packaging. It is how you package your video together. So what I mean by packaging in the case of YouTube is the title of your video, it's the thumbnail of your video, and it is the first 10 seconds of your video. So the title is what grabs their attention. The thumbnail is the visual that connects to the title to say, actually, these two things connect really well. And then the first 10 seconds makes the viewer decide if they're going to continue watching the rest of the video. So those things matter so much. And the video that went most viral was literally titled, "I'm 40. If you're in your 20s or 30s, watch this." And the visual was me almost popping out of the thumbnail with the words "wake up."
Wow.
And it was me sharing 40 life lessons if I were to go back and talk to my younger 20 or 30-year-old self. And for whatever reason, it really connected.
That is, I did watch that one and I loved it. And I think you've had over 1 million views of that one now.
Yes, now coming up 3.4 million views.
Wow. I mean, it still keeps growing.
It just keeps continuing.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting. So this, you know, a lot of what we're talking about in the show is really exploring the different ways each of us individually can have impact. And we can impact the internal, intimate dynamics of our family. And then you can have impact at scale where you're impacting millions and millions of people. It's so awe-inspiring, actually, how you have unlocked that. I really do celebrate.
And on the back of what you said, Bianca, I truly believe any one of us can have impact if we choose to, because we all have different experiences, and that means we all have stories to share and lessons to tell. And if we learn how to communicate that, that is how we begin to have impact.
Yeah, I love that. So if we want to leave our viewers and listeners with a nugget of wisdom from the guru of energy, what is the one bit of advice you would give an ambitious soul who's looking to have impact around their energy management?
I would say, listen to your heart more than the opinions of other people, because we often suppress the innate wisdom we all have, and we all have innate wisdom, and we tend to seek more counsel from those who may not have achieved what we want to achieve. But we tend to place, for whatever reason, more importance on their opinion than our own.
That is so wise. And I will absolutely make sure I tell my children that when I get home this evening and remind them. So, Simon, what is your big dream?
My big dream right now is to see a world that has less division, more compassion, more kindness, and more giving back, because I think that we are more connected than we realize, and you never get to the top alone. We need people around us that believe in us, challenge us, and also encourage us to live our best life.
Thank you. That's absolutely beautiful. And you are certainly giving back, and I'm very grateful to have had this time with you today. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Bianca.
So my main takeaways from that inspiring episode is around the power of curiosity. And when we feel a little bit lost and confused and maybe overwhelmed and intimidated by not knowing what our purpose is, as Simon said, if we ask ourselves that question, what am I most curious about right now? It can be a beautiful guidepost that leads us towards that spiritual alignment that Simon was talking about. I hope you found that episode as moving and spiritually enlivening as I did. Simon is absolutely a man epitomizing success with grace. Please join me for the next episode of The Big Impact Show, where we will be interviewing another inspiring soul who's stepping into their version of success with grace.